You speak English good, or you speak English well? Do you use the adjective or the adverb? Now this could be a simple distinction in this concrete example, but we know from literature there are a lot more difficult cases to call, and I think the difficulty comes from the fact that sometimes we speak things one way, but when it comes to writing we have to know the grammatical rules and write differently. And when it comes to a higher level, perhaps creative writing, sometimes we have to know where we can break the rules a little bit to make writing more interesting. Depending on the example sentence, many rules can come into play. But let's make one simple rule for all cases. We have to ask ourselves, are we modifying a verb? Then use an adverb. Or are we modifying a noun? Then use an adjective. Now the only other question we have to ask ourselves is which we want to stress more, the verb or the noun. Now let's look at some examples of the differences between adjectives and adverbs. The most common one would be when someone asks you, "How are you?" and usually you will hear people say, "I am good." Well, luckily in this case, there's a difference in meaning between the two words. Good means you are morally good, like an angel, and to say "I am well" means you are healthy, which is the more accurate answer to the question. So this is an example of how usually we speak things one way, and we should probably write things another way. When someone does something you don't like, do you say, "Don't take it personally," or "Don't take it personal"? Usually we hear "personally," but in an interview I watched of an author giving, he kept saying "personal, personal, personal." So I asked myself, what is the difference in meaning here? And again, we have to come back to the question, are we stressing the action of the verb, of receiving something, or the object of the verb? What is being taken? This other person's attitude. So I thought here we have a lot more meaning and weight, that even though it's not the most common use of language to say "don't take it personal," it is the more creative use of language that lets us visualize more and feel more. So that would be the better choice. Sometimes we are expecting an adverb, but we see an adjective. And it is the difference between a simple modification of the verb versus implying a noun which is not even named. He thinks clear. What is clear? Not so much the thinking, which can be convoluted in its own sense, but the thoughts, maybe the ideas he comes up with, are clear. She writes neat. Not so much the motions of the writing, as the letters that come out on the page are neat. He swims strong. It is not even so much that the swimming is strong, as the man himself is strong. The sun shines bright. The light is intense. She jumps high. The height attained is impressive. He plays piano smooth. Now this sounds like it could be casual speech, but we have to ask ourselves, what is smooth? Not so much the playing, which could look like banging on the keys, but the music we hear is smooth. Adjectives do make for some creative use of language. Just make sure not to go too far in that direction and overuse them, where an adverb would be more appropriate. So let's get back to our example of "How do you feel?" and you hear somebody say, "I feel real good." Okay, so besides that confusion around good and well, there's another one. Both of those are an adjective and an adverb respectively, and modified by another adverb. So the correct way to answer would be, "I feel really well." Now he speaks smooth. If a verb has no object, you can default to an adverb. He trains. What exactly? Frequently. Whew. Experiment with adjectives and adverbs in your own writing to make for some memorable sentences, as well as figure out your own style. Hey there! Poetry and Play is a channel primarily for writing, both about structure as well as content. If you're a reader or a writer, make sure to subscribe for more informative videos like this one.